It's Tuesday. It's time to look at the waiver wire, and we're going to go deep at these wide receivers, getting you ready to make your selections for Week 14. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're going deep on the waiver wire every day throughout the week. On top of that, we're going to do a lot of deep dives this week, covering the trending players with the You Need series, and then we're going to use these videos in the back end of the week with the Must Start series to help you set your lineups. Ric Flair's here. He is watching. Do not disappoint him. Click that subscribe button. Stop missing out. We're looking at Nick Westbrook to start things off. And since Week 6, he only has one game without a touchdown. And we doubled up this week to count for that miss. He's been on fire. This is a rate of touchdowns that can't continue. But, if you need a wide receiver to throw in your flex because you're hurting that badly or you just want to do so, this might be the guy to look at. 100% route participation rate, 8 out of 11 last week, and every week his ADOT's over 10. So he's getting deep targets downfield. We're getting red zone opportunities. That's why we're getting those touchdowns. The targets are starting to ramp up too a little bit, so we're starting to get some volume. At 22.2% target share, we're getting good work rate numbers here from Nick Westbrook. It's happening. I can't guarantee touchdowns at this rate. If anything, it's due to decrease. But hell, if he's sitting there on the waiver wire and you're looking for something to pick up, this might be your guy. He's scoring a touchdown damn near every week, and maybe you want to gamble on that, but that's only if you're hurting. You're not going to start him over your consistent starters or anything like that. But one of the top trends on the waiver wire right now, Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore is a guy we talk about every week. And we even talked about him before Jameis Winston because he was running a lot of routes, getting a lot of opportunity. We were in those streets. But with Jameis Winston, just reading off the targets here by game. 6, 12, 9, 8, 5, 14. Last night, 14 targets, 8 catches, 111 yards. He shouldn't be on waivers anymore. He's a dart throw every week. We have a bad schedule at Pittsburgh, at Kansas City. However, Elijah Moore has a role in this offense to where in a bad matchup against the Chiefs or something like that, when they got to get creative in this offense, he's going to be in the slot. He's going to be moved around a lot. He's going to be the guy that might get those added opportunities in a matchup like that. And even against Pittsburgh and Denver, we got 19 targets in those matchups. One's in the snow, too. That being said, I don't think Jameis Winston cares. And the fact that he doesn't care and he's yellow with the ball is good for a guy like Elijah Moore. His ADOT's slow. It's under 10. It's always under 10. But the volume's there week in and week out. You could do much worse on this waiver wire list when it comes to volume and week-to-week opportunities. Keon Coleman, we're watching him, seeing if he's coming back. He's rostered in a lot of leagues, but he's also been inactive for a little bit. But when he comes back, he should be expected to do something in this offense, get some targets downfield, a good splash play option, as we already know about him. But he should be back sooner than later. Brandin Cooks is back. 7 targets in his first game back. And on 39.5% of the snaps, on 30 snaps or in 20 routes, a 54.1% route participation rate. We're getting volume. The ADOT's high like always. But target share's okay. That being said, if you're looking for a dart throw wide receiver who's getting air yards and targets, Brandin Cooks could be your guy. He's going to be up and down and spiky due to the quarterback play and the nature of the Dallas Cowboys. But that's just how the waiver wire is in general. Romeo Doubs, limited off the concussion protocol sooner than later, more than likely. That being said, if he's there on waivers, you're going to want him. He's running a lot of routes, seeing a lot of opportunities. You might be looking at Romeo Doubs off the waiver wire in this offense for the Packers, considering the volume there. If he's there, you're looking at him because the odds of him versus all the other waiver wire wide receivers that hit consistently is pretty good. Parker Washington finally got his game. We knew he'd have a game. We just didn't know when, and it was going to be random. That being said, it could be up and down going forward because the Jaguars are up and down. But 12 targets in this matchup, almost a 30% target share. 31% of his snaps were in the slot, and a route participation rate of 91.1%. We're getting volume. The ADOT was high. It's usually much lower than that. That being said, buyer beware in Parker Washington, but we are running a lot of routes. and we're going to get a lot of targets. And if you're needing work rate, Parker Washington is definitely going to get that. MVS is the home run swing, and he's starting to turn into Nick Westbrook here with less targets, and he's a deep threat dandy. The ADOTs are always high, and we like that. We like these types of wide receivers for what they are contextually. They are home run threats. He's a guy you throw in your lineup and you pray to the fantasy gods. That is what we're doing here. He is an up and down wide receiver, even though we've been seeing a lot of ups here. A touchdown every game with the Saints. They push the ball downfield. They get vertical. 3 targets on 32 routes. An 82.1% route participation rate. 75.7% of the snaps ran. That being said, most snaps on the season with the Saints. That's something to look at here. So we're going to get more working volume. We got the Giants on the road coming up. You throw him in. You pray to the gods that he brings in that deep ball. And you'll see what happens. And for start-sit questions with a guy like this, you kind of got to just hope and pray. There's no real answer with a guy like this. You just hope and pray. Adam Thielen's back. He should be rostered. But if he's there on waivers, you should snag him up. The work rate's increasing. 12% increase from the prior week. 10 targets in this matchup. Almost a 25% target share. ADOT's good. 11.2. So we're getting targets deep downfield. Expect him to get volume throughout the rest of the season. The schedule is pretty trendy for the Carolina Panthers. That's probably the best way to describe it. He should be getting volume. Panthers are always in weird games because they're the Panthers. Adam Thielen, easy pickup off the waiver wire. Probably one of the few priority wide receivers. And then speaking about the Panthers, Xavier Legette is in a position to where he could be a home run threat on any given Sunday. And if he's available, you may want to look at him. Almost a 20% target share, running on 94% of the routes. The other wide receivers, I got them listed there. Moore and Coker. If you're in deeper leagues, maybe. But honestly, Adam Thielen's going to zap up targets. Legette's going to zap up targets. You might get some upside here and there from the other guys. I don't know if you're going to trust it, but if you're in like an 18, 20, 22 team league, you probably have to go with those other dandies. But it's also the Carolina offense. Devaughn, Vele. We got 4 targets last night. That being said, we're still getting work in the offense. 47% snap share. Something to pay attention to going forward. Devaughn Vele is just a guy that you're picking up, seeing what's happening with him. He's getting work in the offense and opportunities. It's week in and week out. Targets here, targets there. Goal line looks is what you're hoping for with Vele. That's happening every so often with him, that he's scoring touchdowns. But the thing is, he's on the field, he's running routes, he's getting opportunities. Quentin Johnston, you start him, he makes you cry. You bench him, he makes you cry. We're on a dry run right now. We're due to hit, and he's a guy that's up and down. We're on the down right now. We got the Chiefs on the road. Not a great matchup for him. So the Chargers got to get creative in this matchup in Week 14. But after that, we got the Bucks. We might have 1 or 2 more splash games on the season. It's hard to predict. 16.7% target share in this matchup. Usually he's right under 20% in these games. ADOT was a little bit low. Usually it's over 10. So that being said, buyer beware on Quentin Johnston, but he is a wide receiver who's just up and down. Up and down, we saw that throughout the season. It's easy to project when you look at the work rate. Deep balls, contested catches, you either bring them in or you don't. Not enough volume for it to be consistent. Quentin Johnston, up and down. Same thing with Christian Watson here. Up and down wide receiver. A lot more downs than ups this year, but when he hits big. We got some big matchups coming up. Something to pay attention to with that. But when we're running more routes, there's more opportunities. And if Doubs is out, you're looking at Christian Watson as a dart throw. Ricky Pearsall ran on 78.3% of the routes and only got 1 target. That being said, this was in the snow. 35 snaps. Weird game. And he has been busting as of late. And the quarterback play has been up and down due to injuries. A guy to stash in deeper leagues. Basic 10 and 12-man leagues with basic roster construction. You're probably looking the other way. However, down the line, I would not be surprised if he splashes a game here and there. Ray McCloud's getting volume. 12 targets in his last 2 games. 90% route participation rate. He's on the field. He's running a little bit out of the slot, but he's being moved around. This is a wide receiver that in a bind that you see off the waiver wire that you just throw in there. You just casually throw in your lineup. You don't stash them. There's wide receivers like this off and on the waiver wire all the time. 7.3 ADOT. We're getting good volume, but the ADOT's low. We got to score a touchdown. You're just praying that we break free, we get yards after the catch, or we score a touchdown. But at least you know you're going to get about 4 to 6 targets, and maybe you can cash out with that, maybe not. Start sit questions. Your answer would be here. Do you want the 4 to 6 targets and gamble with it? And the upside is limited due to the ADOT, but you need to score touchdowns. That's not happening on the consistent, but it is a Rochambeau you can play. Noah Brown's dealing with an injury. That's something to pay attention to, but he's getting targets in this offense. Running a lot of volume. Low output last week, but still something to pay attention to because he was on a target spree. So pay attention to him going forward. Alec Pierce is a deep ball dandy. Catches the ball well downfield. Josh Downs was out last week, so we saw more routes, an 84% route participation rate. 6 targets in this matchup, just 2 balls for 16 yards. That being said, deep ball dandy, 21.5 ADOT, 129 air yards in this game. He's going to bring some in here and there. It's going to be up and down, just like a lot of other wide receivers off the waiver wire. Honestly, when I look at him for the future, I'm looking at games with over-unders 46 or higher. Looking at the defenses too. You got a bye week, then Denver on the road. Not very encouraging, so maybe not a must pickup. But know the name. 16 team or deeper. Look at him hard. Looking at Jalen McMillan. We have an interesting schedule going forward, and we're running a lot of routes. 87.2% route participation rate. We also have Sterling Shepard pictured because he's getting targets and opportunity. These guys are going to be down and then like little bumps up in production. And you're not going to know when it's going to happen. But you got Dallas, you got the Chargers, you got the Raiders, you got some interesting matchups coming up. Would not be surprised if one of these wide receivers hit on you. They surprise you. That's usually how that happens. But the work rate here is trending a little bit. High in routes, low in ADOTs. So we're getting worked around a little bit in the slot, a lot outside. Mike Evans is going to get the targets. Cade Otton's going to get the targets. Those two is really going to impact the passing offense. On top of the running backs getting a fair amount of targets as well. Hard for an ancillary wide receiver. But in the right matchup, and we're going to have the right matchup sooner than later, one of these guys are going to do something for you. And same thing with the Patriots wide receivers. They're simmering in the pan, but the steak's not cooking yet. Kayshon Boutte is averaging 6 targets. He had 1 game with 4 targets since week 9. 6 targets a game. Demario Douglas is getting the most targets per game out of these guys and the most fantasy points. Kendrick Bourne, the most upside, more flash potential. Kayshon Boutte, 100% route participation rate. Something has to happen. Something has to happen with this 90+% route participation rate on Kayshon Boutte. So if you're looking for a cheap chip in Dynasty to play with, maybe. Remember, they might bring in another wide receiver, but if you're running damn near 100% of the routes every week, that means they like you to some degree. They like Douglas, but they like you to some degree, Kayshon Boutte. That's something to take note of. 6 targets a game. You know he's going to be out on the field. We got a bye week. Arizona, Buffalo, Chargers. Some interesting matchups. We're going to get something out of one of these 3 wide receivers going down. A.D. Mitchell. Man, I wish he got more opportunities. 60% route participation rate, 15 routes, 2 targets. He's earning 2 targets on 15 routes. That's a decent clip. Running out of slot almost 30% of the time. A little over there, but almost on most games. 34 air yards. Deep ball dandy at 17 ADOT. Alec Pierce is stifling his workload because he's also a deep ball dandy, and you can only have so many of those guys stretching the field. A guy that's just a hope and a prayer every week. That's all he is. Right now, basic 10 and 12 man leagues, no. 18, 20, 22, yeah, you're looking at him. Wicks, 16, 18, 20, 22 man leagues, you're looking at him. 12 man leagues, maybe if Doubs is out and you're going to make that gamble, but we're not running enough routes. We ran 23 last week, but week to week it hasn't been enough. 89% snap share against Miami. Still only 5 targets, 4 balls caught, 30 yards. Can create separation. If he's out there on the field, he can get it on any given Sunday. Wicks is a gamble wide receiver. And again, you're looking at the schedule. Lions, Seahawks, Saints, opportunity there. Maybe more for a cheap DFS play with Packers stacks. If you do not know what I'm talking about, just mute that section and move forward. But Troy Franklin, 5 targets last night, 4 the week prior, then 2, 3, 4. The thing is, he's not on the field running a lot of routes, but Bo Nix targets him. Due to that report at Oregon, he's not a bad wide receiver. 40.9% snap rate, 27 snaps last night. He's getting opportunity. ADOT's decent. Look for him next year. 16-team league, 20-team league-ish, somewhere around there. You're probably looking at him as a dart throw option on the back end of your bench. Michael Wilson. If you're looking at last week's stat line, you're like, 5 balls, 55 yards. I like that. I like the 7 targets, but realize he's a guy that's like this. Sometimes Marvin Harrison hits, and not many other targets are going to the wide receivers because you also got Trey McBride, so that's going to hurt the ancillary wide receivers because you got Trey McBride, and then when Marvin Harrison Jr. is soaking things up, that's really hurting these wide receivers that's trying to get it. On top of that, you get James Conner crushing it, so he's going to be volatile. A 16.3% target share. The ADOT's good, over 10. He's going to be playing on the outside. He's going to be up and down. But matchups like against Seattle, maybe against the Patriots where they can break, maybe you gamble with them. Maybe more for 16-team plus. 12-teamers, it's a stretch unless you got extra flexes or something like that. Michael Wilson, though, is a gamble play. Demarcus Robinson expected to play in Week 14, something to pay attention to. Scrub that off the news feed. 60% snap rate. That being said, you're just waiting for busted coverage here. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. It's not a start-sit question. It's whether or not the coverage busts, and if it does, you're going to have a big week. We've had a couple of them, and a little bit of something on top of that. That being said, you're just hoping for busted coverage when you start him as your start play off the waiver wire. Those are the wide receivers we're looking at going into Week 14. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.